Hey guys, welcome back. Today on The Untidy Artist, we are making the September Sapphire Birthstone Flower Fairy. Today is actually my dad's birthday, so happy birthday to my dad. If you're new to making flower fairies, welcome. You'll want to check out my basic flower fairy tutorial. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. And if you want to click on that bell icon, you'll be the first to know about new announcements and new videos. I do have a really exciting announcement I'm going to give you a little bit of information about at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around. Let's grab some supplies and get started. Obviously, we're going to need a fairy. In my basic flower fairy tutorial, I teach you how to take a wooden bead, and you can see here I've already painted my bead to be a different skin tone. And then you'll need a piece of floral wire and some embroidery floss for the skin and the hair. You'll find my basic flower fairy tutorial listed below, as well as a skin tone tutorial. So if you do want to change up the skin tone of your doll, you can. And then I've already styled her hair. I've given her these darling space buns. This is my favorite hairstyle for flower fairies. You'll find a list of all different sorts of hairstyles you can do on your doll. Obviously, you can style her hair however you'd like. You'll need a flower, and I'll be using this beautiful blue rose. I actually got this at a wholesale supply place I shop at, so I will link something similar below. You'll need some thread, and I've got a really pretty blue, and then two different silvers. One's a satin, and the other one's metallic. They're super close in color, but I liked the variation in the texture. I thought it would add some interest to our doll. And then, of course, I have my beautiful Swarovski crystals. I love this color of sapphire blue. I'm using the Birthstone mix. I like this because it's keeping all of my dolls consistent, and you do get 4 of the sapphire gems in that mix. I've got some E6000 glue and a toothpick to apply our little crystals. I've got some gorgeous sparkly blue glitter because, of course, we have to use glitter, and some Mod Podge and a little paintbrush to apply that. And then I have a sharp pair of scissors and, of course, my trusty glue gun set on low. I like setting it on low because it's easier to work with the glue and you don't get burned as much. Okay, let's get started. So I've obviously got my doll all twisted together. Now I'm going to grab that blue thread, and starting at the waist, I'm going to wrap up right underneath her arms and then give her a little pair of shorts. And then I'm going to grab the satiny silver. And this is kind of a pain to work with, so I'm going to show you a little trick here. What I like to do, you can see how it splays at the end and comes apart. I like to take my glue gun and just add a tiny dab of glue to the thread, let it set for a second, pitch it down, and then cut it right below that. And it helps my thread from coming apart at the ends, and it makes it a million times easier to work with. So now I'm going to put a tiny dab of glue right at the top of her shoulders. And we're just going to wrap this silver thread around the top a few times and then give her a couple of sleeves. And normally I don't film this part, but I wanted to show you guys that just the process that I go through when I am dressing my doll. I do fiddle around with it a lot to get that thread to lay nicely. So I'm wrapping it around a few times, and then I give her one sleeve, wrap it around the center again, and give her the other sleeve. And I do flip her to the front a lot to make sure that it looks good. You can also add another tiny dab of glue to the back to hold that thread in place. And you can see this definitely is a process. And then once I have it where I like it, I add another dab of glue at the back to hold that thread down, and then I'm going to trim off the excess. Then we're going to set her aside and grab our flower and pull it apart. So one thing to keep in mind when you're picking out flowers for flower fairies is to try and find flowers that aren't held together with a lot of glue. It makes life a lot easier. Another thing I wanted to point out is save those extra little pieces. You can actually use those to decorate your doll. I'll show you how I use the leaf at the end of the video. Then you're going to grab the petals and start layering them together in different ways until you have the look that you want. One thing I love mixing up is sometimes I put the bigger petals on the top, which gives her a fuller skirt, and sometimes I put the smaller petals on the top, which makes it a little bit fluffier. So then I'm going to grab my scissors, cut an X into the center of each petal, and then I'm going to slide those up and around her waist. And I layer them together so that they're overlapping nicely. They're not sitting directly on top of each other. You want a nice, fluffy, full skirt. So you're going to do that with all of the petals, and then go ahead and grab your glue gun, and using small dabs of glue, you're going to start attaching the skirt. So I work slowly in this part, little dabs of glue, arranging those petals as I go. And you're going to do that in the front and in the back. And I do spend quite a bit of time getting those petals to lay nicely so she has a beautiful skirt. Now we're going to give our fairy some gloves and shoes. Now the reason I wait to do this until after I've put her skirt on is if you try and give her shoes before you put the skirt on, it's harder to get those petals up and around her waist. So I wait to do that until I've already got her dressed. Here are her gloves and shoes. You'll find a tutorial for that listed below. And then I'm going to grab my Mod Podge and my glitter. You can see I've put some of the Mod Podge in just a little lid. I'm going to take my paintbrush and just paint some of that glue and dab it right around her waist. And I give it a nice layer of the glue. And then I'm going to take some of my glitter and just sprinkle it over the top. I love the detail and little bit of sparkle that this adds right around her waist. So I just sprinkle that glitter over it, tap it down with my fingers, and then tap off the excess and dump it back into my glitter container. So a little really goes a long way with glitter. And then I'm going to take some, and you can go back through and add a little bit more if you need it. And then I'm going to actually add some of the glitter to the tips of her petals. So once again, taking my paintbrush, I'm going to paint or dip the petals into the glue. And then I dumped some of my glitter into the lid, and then I just dip the tips of her petals into that glitter. It seems to work the best. You can also dip the skirt into glue and then into the glitter, and I do that all the way around on all of those petals, and it just adds this beautiful sparkle around the bottom of her dress. Now we're going to add our crystals. So I take my E6000 glue, I put a little bit of it, once again, just in a little plastic lid. I grab my toothpick. I'm going to take a small dab of the glue and put it right at the top of her dress where I want to put the crystal. And then using my toothpick, I pick up one of my little crystals. Be careful, these like to bounce around. I've probably lost, I don't know, an entire package on my floor. Hopefully I'll find them someday when I'm sweeping. And then I'm going to do the same thing, getting a tiny bit of that glue on the toothpick, and I'm going to put 3 right at the top of her hair by one of her cute little space buns. And I find that this glue is much easier to apply the crystals with than trying to use a glue gun. And it holds the crystals in place really, really well. So I just put 3 of those little crystals in a row. I love the sparkle this adds to the top of her hair, and I feel like it just pulls everything together. The last thing we're going to do is grab the leaf that we pulled from the bottom of the flower, and I'm going to cut just the tiniest little piece and create a little teeny tiny leaf to go on the side of her hair just below those crystals. And this is where the sharp scissors come in really handy. So you can see I've just got this itty bitty little leaf, and I glued that right below those crystals. I think this is the perfect finishing touch. And that's it, guys. We're all set. What do you think? I love her. I love how she turned out. I love the contrast of the blue and the silver. I love the little bit of green in her hair. I just think she turned out so fun. Happy birthday to all the September birthdays. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Click on that bell icon to be the first to know about new announcements and new videos. And I have been working on a project for the past year that I'm super excited to share with you. I will be launching it the first part of October, so stay tuned for that date. I can tell you it's all about fairy making, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. If you'd like to share your fairies with me, you can do that with the hashtag UntidyArtistFairyDoll on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all of your kind words and all of your support, and we'll see you next time.